Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TriVersity Talk. I am Stephen Bloomer-Teague.
And I am Wendy Stewart-Kaplan, and thank you for joining us on such a beautiful night.
Absolutely.
What a great night.
Great night, great day, great past 2 days. I mean,
yeah,
gorgeous.
Really, we love when it's not raining. We love when it's beautiful and we can enjoy the weather because it is Pride Month and we want to enjoy everything.
Well, and the Sussex County Pride Rally last weekend was so awesome. So big thank you to Zoe Heath and Sussex County Pride for organizing that. Our dance was so fun. It was a perfect after-party experience. I'm not going to brag or anything.
Oh, you can brag about it. To anybody out there who missed it, it was really, really great, extremely well attended. I mean, we're totally jazzed about it because look at what we've been through in the past year. And then to have such a great turnout. And we had an amazing DJ Koss. And I got to tell you, Stephen, that dance floor didn't stop. It was great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And as it turns out, we might be having one more Pride event. We're working out some details with another awesome organization, and we should hopefully have more news on that for you next week.
And if you don't visit our TriVersity Center page on Facebook, get on it, visit it, because that's where all the love happens.
Indeed, www.triversitycenter.org.
Very cool. So I have like amazing news, all right? Well, this is really cool news for me. I'm in Get Out magazine for Pride Month.
Oh.
They did a whole story. So it really makes me feel good. And we talk about TriVersity in it. So the timing couldn't have been better. And yeah, I'm ready to go. Even though we're not going to have a big formal march this year, it's really nice to be able to celebrate something, right?
Absolutely. And again, Pride's not going anywhere. Just because we can't march in a parade or a march for a couple of years, we'll be back. And in the meantime, we're going to be as pride-filled as ever.
That's right. And speaking of Pride, oh my gosh, tonight's guest is a two-time BroadwayWorld nominee and winner, and he is the current host of Showtime with Jordan von Haslow, performed to sold-out audiences in Carnegie Hall, had an amazing show of Nat King Cole's music, has been the head talent strategist for Sony and Warner Entertainment. Let me just tell you something. This guy wears so many hats, and from the moment I met him, I was impressed. So without further ado, say hi to Jordan von Haslow.
Hi, Jordan.
There you are.
Hello. Hi, guys. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's so great to have you.
How wonderful. Absolutely. It's so funny. You guys were talking about what a wonderful night it is. I'm sitting here in beautiful Hollywood Hills, and the sun is still shining. I'm actually overlooking a pool. So it's still daytime here. But
well, you had to do the pool thing, didn't you, Jordan? You had to do that. But our weather, where it changes, like I hate when I have someone on a live stream and they're in LA and we're dying in the winter here, But we at least can go neck race with the weather that you have.
And nothing for nothing, we're in the Northeast, so it'll still be light here till 10 o'clock. So we're still pretty much in daylight ourselves.
Right, you are in daylight here. So Jordan, I mean, you are hither, dither, and yonder. I last caught up with you in New York City a couple of weeks ago at Industry Bar. And now, to my surprise, you're checking in from LA now. What's going on in your life, Jordan?
Oh my goodness. Well, after like a year and a half of a pause, now everything opened up, and it's so weird. It opened up so quickly. It was like I was in the groove of just like, okay, not too many deliverables, not too many people to have to return calls to. And then it was like a switch flipped, and it's like, hey, we're back to work, everybody. So I said, okay, it's been a year and a half. I guess I need to go on my I'm Still Here, Remember Me tour. And so that's what I've been doing. So, so that's what I've been doing. It's the West Coast tour. So my show, Jordan von Haslow and Friends, is a weekly talk show that's broadcast out of a radio station, Hot 702.5 FM in Las Vegas. And since shutdown, I've been doing the entire thing remotely, and I haven't been back in the studio since last March. So I had to go back out to Los Angeles, and I was chatting with my GM, and so we're about to go back to live broadcasting. So I'm going to be in the studio actually 2 Tuesdays every month. It's a weekly show. We're moving the show to Tuesdays. We're currently on it Mondays at 11 a.m. We're moving to Tuesdays at 4 p.m. And so the first 2 Tuesdays of every month are going to be live shows, and you can call in, and it's always a really great time. And then we're pre-recording two shows as well. So those 2 Tuesdays, I'm going to be in Las Vegas.
I am
so I'm
so
reconnecting
jealous.
with all of those folks.
Wow.
You'll have to come out. You'll have to come out and visit. Yeah.
We'll
can I
do
tell
an
you, I fell in
interview.
love with Las Vegas. Yeah.
You love
Well,
it.
you did. You come out and do an interview. You were on my show, in August, I believe. But again, we were still, and at that time, I think I was sitting and writing out the pandemic in Palm Springs.
You were,
so we did it there.
Stephen,
but yeah,
Jordan lives such a hard life. Jordan was writing out the pandemic. When, excuse me, I was on his show virtually, I didn't get to reap any of the benefits of you being in Palm Springs. Not a one.
That all happened very randomly. So as you mentioned, I was in New York. So I was still full-time in LA because I was always a New Yorker. And then I got hired by Sony, which pulled me out to Los Angeles. But I didn't want to give up New York. It took a long time. So the first 8 months, I actually commuted. So I would catch the 6 a.m. shuttle to LA, land at LAX at 9 and go into the studio. And then Fridays, I would catch the red eye at 11:30. Well, this is back when Virgin was still a thing. I missed that airline so much. And I would land in New York on Saturday morning, and I'd catch up on all my shows. But after about 8 months, aside from it's exhausting commuting back and forth like that, I realized, okay, if I'm going to have any kind of a social life in Los Angeles, I should probably be around. So I gave up my apartment, and it took I can tell you right now, if you go to JFK Tarmac 3, you will see my nail marks on the tarmac. I'm like, I don't want to go. Totally. But that began my LA adventure, and I had so much fun, and I've fallen in love with LA, and I've met so many wonderful people. But what's interesting now, I feel like in the 6 years that I've been out, almost 7 years that I've been out in LA, everybody from New York has been moving to LA, and I'm like, who's watching The Island?
Yeah.
But,
well, I'm here. I'm watching The Island.
I can picture you on one of those widow's peaks, just looking out, making sure everything's
okay. Safe. I have to make sure New York is safe. So you obviously, but this is something I think about you, Jordan. You take everything like a duck to water. I mean, you go to LA, you take a brand new job there. I think I met you when you were still working in New York, and then we became friends, and then boom, you were gone. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And
I actually think I might have been commuting at that point. Yeah. And then shortly thereafter was when I gave up my apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jordan, it's interesting. As much as you love LA, you've moved back to New York. What's that about?
Well, so after LA, I went back to New York. I was still living in LA full time, but I went back to New York and I did the Nat King Cole show, which kept getting extended, and we ran for 5 months. We got nominated for 3 Broadway World Awards. I got nominated for Best Jazz Vocalist. The show was nominated for Best Tribute Show. And my music director, Matt Baker, got nominated for Best Music Director. And I was like, okay, so this is kind of cool. I want to now move this to a bigger room. Well, randomly, I got an opportunity to headline a showroom on the Vegas Strip. And I said, okay, this is a new thing. This will be exciting. So we shut down the Nat King Cole show, and I moved to Las Vegas to do that show. And everything was so it was just so cool because LA, what I love about my experience in all 3 cities, because I'm a showbiz kid, I'm a showbiz junkie. That's all I've only ever worked in entertainment, and it's the only thing I've ever wanted to work in. And what's so funny is that it's 3 different cultures. New York is very much theater and cabaret and very serious, and I'm an artist. LA is very look at me and, who's the director, and I'm on TV. And Las Vegas is like this old school showbiz. Everyone wears shiny clothes and everybody socializes and goes from lounge to lounge. And it's just like, it's like old show business. And I really fell in love with Las Vegas. And the radio show actually came accidentally. I was doing some promo. I was promoting the show and doing an interview on the radio station. And after the interview, I ended up getting into a conversation with the owner, and that like randomly turned into this pitch, like that wasn't intentional. And she's like, yeah. And she greenlit the show, which is so good because that was like February. And shortly thereafter, shutdown happened. So the Vegas show closed and nothing was going on. And it's like, well, at least I still have a platform. And so that's how that happened. And
you took it remote. You just took it remote. You did what you
and I took it remote. Yeah. So for the first 3 months of shutdown, I was in Las Vegas. And then, Vegas was really antsy about getting reopened because, no one was making any money. And so I want to say March, April, June, like right before June, May, the Vegas announced we're reopening big. And I said, well, I'm getting the hell out of here now. But I didn't want to go back to LA, I didn't. LA was still, the numbers were climbing. New York was still at the height of everything that was going on.
Right,
in New York.
but in Vegas, when you're governor of Vegas, that crazy woman, the numbers were climbing in Vegas, and she's like, I don't care, I'm reopening.
Totally. Well, that's a whole other question. But like I said, Vegas is very old school, and it's very, let's just say, like a lot of people in Vegas are very connected, and I honestly don't know that was necessarily her doing that on her own.
Of course, I got
it. But nevertheless, I'm like, where can I go? And I said, you know what? I've only been to Palm Springs like once. You know what? It's right in between LA and Las Vegas. We don't know how long this is going to be. So let's just do the Palm Springs thing and just wait it out. And so I ended up going to Palm Springs. And then oddly enough, everyone from Los Angeles started moving out to Palm Springs. There's this really weird shift I'm noticing. I feel like in the last couple of years, everyone I know from New York is moving to Los Angeles. And everyone I know from Los Angeles is moving to Palm Springs.
I know a lot of people in Palm Springs now. A lot of people in Palm Springs.
It's like the new spot. There's been this like migration, this circular migration. It's really weird. So we got to the end of summer and it's like, okay, this thing is not gone away. This is the new normal. So what do I do? Do I want to go back to LA? Yeah. Do I want to? Oh, I know what it was. It was we were getting close to the election.
Yes.
And, the world was going people were like losing their minds. And I said, okay, well, you know what? If the world is going to end on November 4th, I want to be on Manhattan Island before it does.
Like any true disaster movie, you should be in Manhattan when the world ends.
Stephen, you have to understand, Jordan will always position himself in the limelight of what it's just a natural instinct, like a beam of light, and he's like right to it. You are, you know this. Exactly. That's what I love about you.
Find your mark, find your hot spot.
Find your mark.
I was in Vegas so I was in Palm Springs for like 4 months. I went back to Los Angeles for a month just because, I hadn't checked my mail since February. And then I also am the board president of a nonprofit, the Entertainment+Arts Alliance, the EAA, formerly the Entertainment AIDS Alliance. And so I had to go back just to handle some of that. And so I was there for a month, the month of October. And then on Halloween of 2020, I returned to New York. And I promise Dolly will never go away again.
We're gonna hold you to that, Jordan. You're just like, you're so effervescent. You just explode, and you do create magic around you. I need to know what Jordan was like growing up. First of all, I don't even know where you're from. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, yeah. And I was artistic, and I was very artistic, and excuse me. From the moment that I was a little kid, I was always in music classes and such. And then I started working as a little kid. So I was doing musical theater. I was doing like catalog work. in a lot of industrials, like in Chicago, like the big things are, if you're in acting, is either theater or industrials.
Right.
There's also a lot of commercial work, like Leo Burnett and a couple of other big ad agencies are there.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all of that up until high school. And then I went to an arts high school. I went to the Chicago Academy for the Arts. And there I majored in music, and I was doing musicals and I was doing shows, but then I was also doing a lot of work outside of the school as well. So like I did a show at the Steppenwolf Theater, and
of course, my God.
Germany, and then it landed at Steppenwolf. I was still doing like some catalog work and such. And I've always been a person, and this is how I was when I was a little kid, and still now, I've just always been a person who just said yes to everything, you know, because it's always about the new opportunity. You never know who you're going to meet. And it's all about the experience, right? It's all about,
oh my God, I agree with you on all of it. Yeah. No, totally and completely. Now, were your, do you have brothers and sisters?
I am an only child, and I'm a Leo.
Hey.
So
Only child
Yay,
here.
Leo, when's your birthday?
I'm not a Leo. I'm an only child. I'm March 16th. But
Yay for only child. It's so funny. Everyone like who has siblings always looks at only children with pity. And it's like, oh, you didn't have any people to play with growing up. Or, oh, it's like, no. I realized early on that there was no way in heck I would ever want a brother and sister. Like I can remember being a little kid, maybe thinking like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a little brother or a little sister. But as soon as I realized, you know, looking at my friends, wait, you can't do what because your sister needs braces? Wait, you have to share that toy? Oh, no, I had 2 Christmas trees. I had the Christmas tree in Chicago. And then also my mother's family is all from St. Louis. And so I had a Christmas tree down there, and everything under it was mine. So I loved being an only child.
Absolutely. I was the only child. And on one side of the family, I was the only grandchild. So it was just glorious.
Even better. Yeah, totally. And the thing about only children are, I think you kind of develop, you kind of develop the skill of being self-sufficient early on because you don't have brothers and sisters. And so, you know, from the time you're a little kid, you have to figure out how to entertain yourself, right? And keep yourself interested.
Yeah.
But also, you have friends and become really social. So you're able to, you know, it's like you make walk in the door after school and boom, it's ringing. Going to so-and-so's house to ride bikes, or oh my God, being an only child is wonderful. I recommend everybody try it at least once.
It's too funny. So
did I freeze?
Your parents had to be totally supportive of you then. When you were growing up, like you're with either your parents in showbiz?
Like never worked in the arts.
We're having a freeze moment.
Neither of them were in showbiz, but they all were, you know, they all played it. They both. Oh no! How about now? Can you hear me now?
Right now? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Whatever you're doing now, don't breathe. Just keep talking.
Okay, sure. No, so my parents, both of them played instruments, but none of them ever, you know, worked in show business. But they were all like, they were big fans. Like, you know, like my father earlier, you know, 9 to 10, my father all had like the latest in the stereo equipment and the laser discs and all of that jazz. And we always had this amazing album and CD collection. And then my mother loved going to the theater and loved going to the ballet and all of that. So like they were totally supportive and totally into it. And I think that they sort of like really got into it once I started working professionally. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, but you're very lucky that you came from a family like that could totally support everything that you were doing. Now, you were like, obviously, when you were in school, you were the showbiz kid. Did you have a lot of friends because of that?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, very lucky to support, and also, I mean, not only support like, oh, we're behind you 100%, but like would write checks. Like, yes, we'll pay that tuition. Yes, we'll pay for those voice lessons. Yes, we'll pay for those tap lessons. And not for nothing, you know, you can find emotional support anywhere, but finding someone to write a check, that's the key to success.
Oh my God, you
That's
are
love. That's love, baby.
that is a t-shirt and a half. The hell with emotional support. Just write me a check. Here.
Well, y'all seen all these things at Pride and be like, well, you know, instead of supporting these corporations that slap a rainbow on everything, support me. I'm a gay, and just
Right. I like
give me
that
your money.
statement, right? Totally like that.
Exactly. I will put your money to work.
So, when you took like a
100%.
job, Jordan, you were working, when I met you, you were working for Sony. That's like, you know, that's like a regular corporate job. What was that like for someone like you?
Well, it was awesome because, you know, in the nature that I was in this, you know, I've always just wanted to be in the center of entertainment, in the center of show business. And so I started working corporate as a result of getting divorced. And the first opportunity I had was working for Time Warner corporate. And I was in, so Time Warner, now they're WarnerMedia, they have an executive search team. So this is a team sort of like you know, like if you're looking for a new CEO, you'd outsource it to, you know, a search firm. But this was an internal team that handled VP and above searches across the entire corporation. So not just Time Warner corporate, but Warner Brothers, HBO, Turner Broadcasting, and Time Inc., all the magazines at the time. And so I felt like it was like an MBA program in entertainment because it literally gave me a bird's eye view of this entire organization. And my job was to know not only how our organization functions, but how all of our competitor organization functions. So I got this bird's eye view and really got a chance to see, you know, whether it was movies, how, like all of the functions that are needed to take something from page to screen, right? We always just think about the actors and the writers, but no, there's a print and advertising division. And then there's people in sales who go out to all of the theater chains and say, hey, we want room on this many screens. And then there's the whole home video team, which is just a big retail operation that does all the consumer products, and they all have to work together. And so it was fascinating to me because I literally was immersed in entertainment. And because, you know, our job was to hire all of these, you know, these important people, I got to have conversations with some of the most interesting people. Like, for example, my team is the team that brought Jeff Zucker to become the president of CNN. So throughout this corporate portion of my life, I got a chance to have these one-on-one, sort of like we're doing now, but with, you know, the EVP of, you know, marketing for Netflix, with
How
the
amazing.
SVP of casting for, you know, NBC Bravo. So it's like, you know, I just sucked. I was a sponge. I was a sponge. And then what also happened you know, and so after that I moved over, that's how I got to LA. I moved over to Sony. What also made it interesting, aside from getting a chance to meet all these people, because I was hiring for the studios, there was nobody who wouldn't take my call. And so that was like really cool.
I knew you were going to get to that. Of course. How easy.
Whatever reason. Totally. Because, you know, and what I learned about specifically recruitment, what makes recruitment so interesting, you know, because even though it's, you know, it's one part marketing, you know, it sits in HR, but recruiting really isn't an HR function. It's really marketing because you're like the face of this organization. And in many cases, right, you're the first impression anyone has of this organization and what the organization is about. So you're like a brand ambassador. And it is also sales. But what makes it so wonderful is, like, you know, as a salesperson, you know, no one wants your call, right? You call them up or it's like, oh, you want to sell me something. But it's like, hey, Wendy, Steven, hi, it's Jordan. Do you want a job? Like, who's not going to take your, like, everyone's like, okay, I'll hear what you're talking about. By the way, oh, it's been so great to learn about you. You know what? I'm actually raising money for this show on the West End. Have you ever thought about the theater? You know, So it
Oh
was
my God.
wonderful, and especially just because I like meeting people, and I like talking. I'm social. It was like
You have to love. You do. You have to love meeting people. You have to be able to talk to everybody. It's great. I would totally take to it too. It's the kind of thing I would love to do. But again, you got to like be in people's faces and really get off on the conversations. Obviously you do. And then of course you were in a position of power, Jordan. You know, they're going to take your calls.
Yes.
Jordan, exactly. Is that
cool.
you?
Like, I don't think that I necessarily would have liked recruiting. Exactly. You know, I don't think I necessarily would have loved it if I were, say, the head of recruiting for an insurance company. But because you know, I'm so passionate about content. Yeah, you know, but because I'm so passionate about the content, and because I'm so passionate about content making, movie making, TV making, and then once my last corporate job, I was head of recruitment for Entertainment One. And Entertainment One, in addition to the film and TV studio, they're the largest independent record label group in North America. Wow. So I got a chance to immerse myself in the music business as well. So it was just fun, and it's just really, and a lot of interesting personalities, right? Because
a lot of
you have the corporate people, the folks who work in accounting and such, but then you have like the A&R people or some of the TV development people who are way out there. So saw some really interesting things as well.
You did. I'm curious. What makes them so way out there? Like, tell us what somebody that you met that was way out there. You don't have to say who it was, but what made them so way out?
No, totally. I think one of the things is, and this is one of the reasons I said like Las Vegas is still kind of like old Hollywood, and I think Hollywood is losing this. And I think some of it is generational, just as attitude shift. But I think it's also just because the world has gotten more corporate, right? So studios aren't independent anymore. Everything is owned by some large corporate entity. Like I always say, like Warner Brothers, like was such a tightly run ship that like if I ordered paper clips, I would somehow have to explain so it can justify how that directly reached the bottom line for Jeff Bewkes's, shareholder presentation, you know, but you have the creatives, especially, so the development people, the producers, you know, especially the older ones who came from a time when it really was the wild west, you know, pre-Me Too, pre-women's lib. They would just be out there, and some of the things that they would say or do, some of it would be wholly inappropriate, some of it like horribly inappropriate, and you know they end up leaving. Some of it wholly inappropriate and absolutely hilarious, but things that you could never do working in any other type of organization, whether it's the way you talked about people. Like I knew someone who walked around, you know, it's California, smoking's illegal, and pot was pot legal at the time? Yeah, pot was legal, but she would just walk around with her vape the entire time, looking. Okay, so tell me what you got going on here. I want to see people. Okay, well, look at this presentation. Here's what we're coming. Like she's just these crazy personalities. It was just so amazing. It was just so amazing. But just different. And again, I think that's changing, and actually for the good. Like I do remember, I used to have one internal client. And I usually don't like to talk badly about anybody, but I hate.
No, it's okay. We want you to talk badly.
So obnoxious. He was the thing is, he was really, really obnoxious. And I later found out that he started his career. He was an executive, but he started his career as a child actor. And he had been nominated for a Golden Globe when he was like 9. And it's like, when I learned that, I was like, oh.
Don't you know who I am?
But I remember, like, we were, just like that whiny, petulant child actor.
Bitter.
50, what I mean? Anyways, so obnoxious. But I remember, exactly. But I remember we needed a new receptionist, right? And again, it's Hollywood. It's all about image, and it's like in a very roundabout way. Like the instructions basically were, this receptionist has to be young, it has to be a woman, and she has to be gorgeous. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I reconcile this with the fact that I sit in HR and it's quite illegal to like hire based on cup size, So,
not to mention that also.
Oh my God.
Those are the things, like, really interesting to navigate, and some not great things in terms of just the world and how we should be interacting, but singular experiences that you can only have in Hollywood or only have in entertainment. And I think that's all going away. It's good, right? We don't need, people throwing
things have
laptops at their assistants' heads.
Right. Things have totally changed, but don't you think,
but
Jordan, with all of this new platforms of live streaming and the post-pandemic world, we are in a different world. How do you think it's going to affect everything, from your opinion?
I think a couple of things. I mean, I think right now it's amazing. Just the fact that, here we are, talking now, and like the pandemic was the great elevator because everyone had to do everything remotely. So your broadcast here right now looks exactly the way The View looks at the moment, so it's like a leveler. And I think what'll happen is, the really good engaging content will rise to the top. There's just going to be more of a pool of mediocre and not so great. I do wonder if in the long run, it's going to slightly devalue content, right? Because there's not as many eyeballs on any one thing more. So I wonder if, but it's a long run will be a little less, and that's the board.
And you're speaking of live stream, you're freezing on us again.
Netflix. There's so many things on you. How much of this stuff is news? Because it's just like, when new content is out there, it's just like, oh, here's a new show. Oh, here's 13 episodes of this. Oh, here's 6 episodes of this. Oh, so that's where I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things progress. Where I am really excited is the music industry, because I've been working on a new recording. I haven't written an album in years, but I've been listening to a lot of pop music, and there's so much great music. Like these 16-year-olds, right? They now have the technology to create and record studio quality music. And then with the click of the button, they have worldwide distribution. So it's just amazing to hear all of these new voices, and some of them catch on. Like, so it's very what's the word? It's very inspiring creatively. But at the same time, it does sort of make you, it's a little daunting. Like, how do you now stand outside of the pack? Right? How do you stand out in this?
Don't you think, with everybody's ability to create content, right? There's something like 860,000 podcasters, Jordan, and more every day, right? And you're talking about this 16-year-old and do quality music from their bedroom, right? So that we're flooding the market with all of this content. So what is going to be a denominator? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how are you going to get somebody that stands out from everybody else when there's so much stuff?
Absolutely.
I think the days of the superstar, right? The Michael Jackson, the Julia Roberts, is over.
I do
think
too.
That where we're moving to now is that, and again, I think it's good in the sense that now everyone has a chance to do what they love and make money doing it. But I think we're moving to this place where everyone is just going to be their own cottage industry. And you might have a whole a group of followers of dedicated followers of 10,000 people. You might have a group of dedicated followers of 10 million people, even 100 million people. But I think the days of where the entire world is looking at this one person, I think that's over. Because even now, the people who are like the Oscar winners or the people who win the Grammys this year, if you talk to 10 people, 8 of them might not have ever heard of who's Andra Day. I've never heard of her.
Right.
Oh, she's in that. Oh, okay. But it's Hulu. So if it came out on Hulu and you don't have Hulu, there's no way you're ever going to see it, right? Because we're not in the days of like If it was in the movie theater, it was in the movie theater. It's ultimately going to end up on HBO, and then it's ultimately going to end up on WPix, and then it's ultimately gonna, So I think now it's just about becoming your own cottage industry, and building yourself from the ground up. So
it's also
is a star.
It's also overwhelming, the amount of choices. I mean, you just said it, what do I watch on Netflix? There's a gazillion things. What do I watch on Hulu? A gazillion things. HBO, Showtime. And then there's all those other platforms now. Peacock. I mean, what happens? I fry. I don't watch anything at all. I look at my friends' podcasts. That's what I do because I can't make a decision. This is what happens to me.
Totally. But that's what it is. It's like now when you're like, once upon a time, but once upon a time you turned on the TV and you flipped, and if something looked good, you stayed there.
Yeah.
Now, deciding what to watch is like going to IKEA. Like your head hurts. You're just like, you know what? After 30 minutes of scrolling through everything, you're like, I'm not even in the mood to watch this anymore.
Thank you for saying that.
100%.
So my husband,
I don't know.
Sorry. But my husband on this subject, we pay like $300 for cable. And we do that still basically so that on Sunday he can watch Golden Girls, which we could get on Hulu, but he doesn't want to watch it on Hulu. He wants to watch it on cable. So this is the world we live in now.
Oh, that's so fun. Why won't he watch?
So funny because everyone, back before.
Why won't he watch it on Hulu?
Well, because he's difficult.
Well, he wants to see it live, right?
I got rid of cable, like so many people.
Well, it's so funny because before. But that's the thing, because back, before, streaming really took off, you had everyone calling for cord cutting, right? Like cable's too expensive. Cable's too expensive.
I got rid of it.
I've always been for cable because cable is $200 a month. Right? $200 a month, but that includes internet, and that includes God knows how many thousands of hours of pure entertainment every single week. You want to go see a movie at the theater, you're going to pay $20 for an hour and a half. And then you got to
I never looked at it that way. I mean,
23 hours.
I never looked at it that way.
Right? But cable is and then and so it's like, oh, well, now we can, cord cutting the skinny bundles. But guess what? You have to pay for your internet. You're paying $13 a month for Netflix. You're paying $7 a Hulu. You're paying $5.99 a month for Peacock. Guess what?
Yeah, they just reconfigured the money.
Same amount of money that we were all paying, or maybe even more before we cord cut.
Yeah. So, Stephen, you see, we just defended Richard's right.
And curate, this is one of the things that I really learned when I started. Exactly. And that's one of the things that I really realized when I started working in television for Time Warner, right? Because you had, the term like TS, TNT. There's departments that are totally dedicated to scheduling, right? And curating all of these day parts so that one thing flows into another, so that they all is perfectly curated. It's an form. And I guess, we have that now with, the AI and it's serving things up to you, but it misses some of that personal touch. I don't know.
Jordan, I have a question for you.
I'm a little nostalgic for it, but
you said before. You mentioned before that you started working for Sony after you got divorced. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so was it an ugly divorce?
So after I got divorced. Yeah. So I was married for hideous.
Wait, just repeat it.
It was
how long were you married for?
The thing is For about 10 years. I was married for about 10 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Can you hear me? I'm freezing up. Yeah, I was married for about 10 years. And well, I came to New York really young and I got married really young. And I came to New York doing a musical. And I was on the audition circuit. But one of the things I knew is I didn't want to be a starving artist. And I met this really wonderful guy who worked in finance. And we hit it off really well. And I said, okay, let's do this. Let's see what this married thing is about. And we had a wonderful life. We had a beautiful apartment in Carnegie Hall.
Ooh.
Spent like 9 summers, seasons. It was a really, really wonderful life. Until it wasn't. As much that, we were horrible for each other. It's just that we both went from our 20s into our 30s and we grew apart.
That's a big
were we more mature, we would have ended our marriage as friends like 4 years before it ended. But by the time it completely. And so, but it was exactly. And so it was what it was, and it opened the door to me going to the corporate side of the studio system. So
true. Jordan, you're amazingly resourceful.
That it needs here, and talking to you, if I had never gotten divorced.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Hold on, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here.
Well,
I think between us bouncing between LA and New York.
Yes. B, every there's an opportunity everywhere. Oh no, am I frozen now?
Yeah, you've been pretty frozen.
Yeah, I hear you now.
I can hear you now, but your image is frozen. But we were hearing you talk about all the opportunities.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen, but we can hear your voice. Oh, now you're super frozen. Cool. Can't hear anything now, Stephen. I think it's a connection between New York and LA.
No, everything is every new person. Super. You know what's interesting about this platform? I've used this platform, and what I've found, I'm curious once. I could do something with that.
Okay, you're severely frozen.
Is this thing on?
Jordan, just talk, because I think if you just talk.
I should be having.
Yeah, I think just talk, Jordan.
Because I can hear you.
Okay, you just talk.
No, I just see your mouth moving.
Oh yeah. Hum.
What do you do about it?
Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty and the downside of streaming. It's wonderful. Jordan is on one coast.
There's an opportunity everywhere.
We're on the other. We can all convene here, but sometimes
new people to new everything, So it's just like say yes. I mean, it's kind of like the way we met, right? Wendy, we met, I think, on the roof at the bar on the
rooftop of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That is where I met Jordan through a wonderful performer friend and activist friend of ours, Deanne Gorman, who is just a peach. And we love her to death. And she introduced us. And that was it, but Jordan moves and shakes and all kinds of things. There's all this energy around Jordan, which I found super attractive. And then I blinked my eyes, he was gone. He was in LA. And that's what happened. That is the story. So Jordan, do you have some upcoming things you'd like to tell us about? Any handles that you want to share?
But but that totally. But that's talk about the opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what I mean when I talk about the.
Stephen, you know what? Maybe put Jordan's website
Sorry,
up
say
there.
that one more time. I missed that. You will.
Yeah, and if you want to share anything that's coming down the
Did you say, like,
pike, I want
handles, like social handles, or
that would be great.
Oh,
Your
no.
social
Definitely.
handles.
I didn't hear a word you just said.
Your social handles.
Okay, well, you can
Jordan,
find
I had to
me
bring the dog on the
Instagram
street now.
at Jordan von Haslow. At Jordan von Haslow. You can find me there. You can find me in Twitter. All right there, Jordan von Haslow. Jordan von Haslow.
Well, the StreamYard gods have seemingly decided against
At
us.
Von Haslow.
Yes, the StreamYard
Oh
guards.
my goodness, I can't hear a word you're saying.
No, that's okay. We
no.
can't hear you either, but we put up your website, and if people want to know more about you, and I know they can find you
Perfect.
on Instagram, Jordan von Haslow on
Yes,
Instagram.
at Jordan Haslow. And then the radio, you can visit us on Instagram at Showtime with Jordan, and it airs live every Tuesday on Hot 725 FM in Las Vegas. And then it's also available afterwards, every episode, wherever you find podcasts.
So wherever you find podcasts, so that would be Spotify, that would be Amazon, that would be all the podcasting platforms. Love it.
Yes. And at Showtime
Oh my gosh.
with Jordan is also the radio show. And you can find that, like, if you're not in Las Vegas, you go to any iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and you can
That's all the platforms. Jordan's
broadcast
got
there.
a
Showtime
mom
with Jordan.
to our picture now. While you're frozen.
Wendy took a picture of you while you were frozen on the screen.
Yes.
Well, I always show a picture at the end of the broadcast, but your smile was so great, and God bless StreamYard, it chose to freeze it at that moment.
Oh, I thought
so
you were
I'm like,
say
let's
something.
take a
I thought you were
picture.
going to ask a question, Stephen.
Oh no. Yeah, because everything's so topsy-turvy. I'm like,
Talk about a
missed talk.
misconnection.
Well, everyone, I mean, we're having some technical difficulties, and it's much as we want to continue this conversation, I'm sure you might be getting annoyed with us right now, but
we're having a great time.
Exactly. But this is what the StreamYard gods are giving us, and we're rolling with it.
Because that's how we roll. Stephen and I have
love
learned that is how we roll. And I'm really excited.
Can I tell you those?
Yes, Jordan. I heard that for a second. What was it?
Well, you know what's interesting about StreamYard, I find, because I've used it a few times, I find that sometimes it'll seem like it's freezing, but
it's not really freezing. I don't know. Today, I think it is really freezing, but we'll see when we'll have this up on our TriVersity Center site. So on YouTube, so we'll be able to tell then. But you know what? It's all good. We got the meat and potatoes of you, Jordan, and that's what we're here for.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't say anything. I was to you, Mike.
Oy vey, my goodness.
Okay.
So, Jordan, you've completely gone silent at this point. So I'm going to say, let's call this for tonight, as much as I don't want to.
Yeah.
And
neither.
say, Jordan, thank you so much coming on. And thank you everyone for watching. And
exactly.
We will see you next week with a better connection.
Yes.
What it's freezing on, when you're performing, and then it's the broadside. So.
Hey, what can we do? The show must go on. But for now, we're going to sign off, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jordan.
Absolutely.
Good night.
Maybe,
Good night.
Maybe next time we can continue the